Welcome back to Life and Style. This is Living Up, and Dr. Lango has joined us in studio today. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Always lovely to have you on the show.
My pleasure.
Well, today we're talking about premature babies. It's something that's been happening all around. And most of the people don't come out to talk about it. Most of the people don't even understand why me. Some will say it's witchcraft. There's some people, it's persistent. It happens to you this time, and the next time it happens. So today we want to get to the basics of what exactly is it? Is it the size of the baby? Is it the amount of time, the gestation period? What exactly is a premature baby?
Yeah, I mean, by definition, a premature baby is a baby who's born before 37 weeks. To get to term, you talk about 40 weeks.
Yes.
I know everyone else knows it as 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. But by definition, any delivery before 37 weeks, that is considered a preterm baby. But then there's a bit of overlap between a preterm baby and a small, what do you call a small baby?
Small,
yeah,
I think
so
the
small for
tiny,
gestation.
Yeah.
So most of the time you might have someone delivering at that 6 weeks where the baby is 2.8, 2.6 kilos, and they have no problem at all. The people that tend to have problems are those that get babies below 35 weeks. But now with technology and knowledge and improvement in healthcare, even those tend to sail through, especially in just in any average hospital, in average society. Now, things have shifted. Those that will call in people like me are cases whereby the baby is born below 28 weeks. So that's really
that's
small.
extreme.
Yeah. So if you calculate, maybe around, if you use months, you can say born below 7. That's 7 months, yeah? Yeah. So if a baby is born and weighs less than 2.5 kilos, we'll say that baby is low birth weight.
Okay.
Yeah. If a baby is born and the weight is less than 1.5 kilos, we'll say that baby is very low birth weight.
Okay.
So if a baby is born less than 1,000 grams, then that is extremely low birth weight.
That's extreme, yeah.
Yeah, so those who are low birth weight from about 1.5 to 2.5 kilos, they could have problems here and there, but many people can handle them.
All right.
And then below that, then that's when the problem sort of gets a bit more.
Okay. Now, the one question that every mother who goes through this, or even people who are not going through this but have seen their friends go through having a premature baby, the one question they all ask is, why? What causes one to have a premature baby?
Yeah, I mean, the causes can be categorized as either on the mother's side or on the baby side. So you can start with the mother's side.
Okay.
So on the mother's side, problems can be in the general diseases that the mom can be having, or problems with the uterus. Okay, so in the uterus, you can have a uterus which has an unusual shape. I call it like biconate uterus. Basically, the shape of a uterus is like that. So if you have something which looks like that, then implantation, and as the baby grows, then you can find the baby is not fitting well and the pregnancy can come out earlier. Or you can have a problem with the cervix. The cervix is actually the entry to the uterus itself. So once the baby has been formed and is growing, you might find some people have what's called cervical incompetence or any other problem with the cervix, such that as the pregnancy grows, then the cervix also opens. And it can open to an extent that the baby actually comes out and it's not yet time. And that could be the reason why some people have recurrent, like first trimester, the first 3 months, or the second trimester losses, because the uterus just opened up before time. If you come to problems with the mother, the commonest thing that we see is actually hypertension. It could be hypertension as a disease, the one that you know it, but then again, the biggest problem for our young mothers is hypertension induced by the pregnancy, what we call preeclampsia. So what happens is that as the baby grows, we find that there are factors that are produced at the placental level, and these cause the pressures to go up in the mom. and it can be so high such that even the mom ends up convulsing. So when we get to a point whereby we are seeing the pressures are not getting controlled, mom is getting too sick, she's having a kidney impairment, or she's getting, certain pains, or, things which might make us think that she's getting a stroke, then the baby has to come out.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether it's 28, 22 weeks, 30 weeks, because mom's health actually comes fast. You may not know this, but in obstetrics, mom's health comes fast. So if we have to choose whether to deliver, we actually have to bring out the baby. The other things that can cause premature delivery are like diseases in the mom, other chronic illnesses, diabetes, TB, any sort of infection that is chronic. Chronic means long-lying disease. Someone could be having SLE, any medical condition that has been there for a long time can actually make the mom go into labor earlier than expected. The other thing is that if you have an infection during pregnancy, which has affected the covering of the womb, what covers the baby, that can also lead to an early delivery. The body sort of wants to expel when the baby is at risk. Then the body sort of wants to expel, and the mother actually goes into labor, and the baby is expelled. Okay. So if you look at now other causes, that's just a brief on the mom side. If you look at the baby side, you see that you could have chromosomal problems. Let's say there's a problem with the baby in terms of the chromosomes are not either too many or too little. You're supposed to have your 46 XY. So if you have more or less, then you find that could lead to early deliveries. And you'll be surprised that if you look at spontaneous fetal losses, some people did studies to look at the chromosomal makeup of those losses. You find that up to 98% of those spontaneous losses actually have some chromosomal issues. Yeah, and many times you'll actually lose a pregnancy and you'll even know you lost the pregnancy because it comes as a heavy flow. So if it's just nature's way of protecting you from bigger problems in case the pregnancy...
Most mothers wouldn't look at it that way. They'll be so sad to have lost their baby.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't even know. Like you just have a very heavy flow. Most likely there's a problem in that the formation of chromosomal levels. And then other things that we see leading to premature delivery are like multiple gestation. If you have more than one baby in the womb, twins, triplets, quadruplets, like that. One, you can just think of it as physical, the weight and stuff. And then multiple gestation tend to come with other complications. We have a good number of mothers who actually carry their twin gestations or triplets to term, but that's more of the exception than the rule. Many times you'll find at 35 weeks, 34 weeks, the mom is too tired, the babies are too big, or if they're actually in the same sac, then the complications become more because they could get entangled and someone wants to deliver them a bit earlier. Yeah, and then other things that you may not have control of is, let's say the placenta has attached at the wrong place. The placenta should attach at the roof of the uterus, but if it is attached at the bottom, and as the pregnancy continues, then it sort of displaces as the womb stretches, then the attachment sort of comes off. So you can have earlier bleeds, like you start having bleeding from the placental attachment.
Well, we've got so many predisposing factors leading to a mother, having a premature baby. But what are the expectations? Like, what are some of the things that should I expect in terms of diseases, conditions that are very important to note for a premature baby in terms of care?
Yeah, as I said, if you look at babies who are born at 36 weeks, 37 weeks, they have very, very little complications. Nowadays, we are able to support the respiratory. The biggest problem is immaturity of all the organs, from the brain to the lungs, to the kidneys, to the intestines. And what kills babies most of the time is actually immaturity of the lungs. And nowadays we have machines which can ventilate and support their breathing. We have drugs that we give to the lungs to help them mature after delivery. So we are able to save many of those babies. And now our threshold for intervention has moved a bit lower to the extreme premature babies, those who are less than 1,000 grams. Those are the ones that are giving us more of a headache.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that will call in the specialists like myself to give guidance. Now, I understand your question. Now, for the premature babies, you'll find that in the last 3 months of pregnancy, it's called the last trimester, that's when many of these nutrients are transferred from mom to the baby. Yeah, in loads and loads of quantities. So if you come early, you'll find that you've been born, but you didn't get like enough stores. And that can lead to deficiencies like in iron and other things as the child grows. So we tend to follow them up every month, check on these things and give them supplements, advise mom on what to do, what not to do to make sure the baby gets what baby needs. And those that required respiratory support for a long time, let's say they're on the machine, that to be ventilated for a long time, or they're on oxygen for a long time, you find that the treatment itself could lead to complications like what we call chronic lung disease. Basically, it means that your lungs have not really matured so much, so the surface area in your lungs that is involved in gas exchange is small. So you find they tend to have basically they tend to have a very high risk of complications.
Later. Yeah, it starts as a short-term health risk,
Yeah.
and then by trying to help the baby at that stage, then now it becomes like a long-term health risk.
When you, in fact, the problem is the intervention that they receive in the initial phase, and that leads to small damages in the lungs, a bit of stretch here, a bit of popping here and a bit of popping there. Then you tend to see they're actually predisposed to asthma quite a bit.
Okay.
They tend to have a lot of asthmatic problems and viral infections in early life, especially viral lung infections, can be quite dangerous for them. So if you had a baby who was born, let's say, less than 1.5 kilos and has a common cold, and you can just see the breathing is not right, it's best to go to hospital because they can complicate very fast. The lung capacity is not as good, and the defenses are not as good. Yeah, the other thing that we have in the back of our minds is that those who are on oxygen for a very long time, because you might find these babies, a baby was born at 700 grams will stay in hospital for about 8 weeks. Whoa. And about 2 months, and maybe for a month the baby was actually on oxygen. Oxygen does injure some part of your eye and can affect your vision. So those are things that for those that had prolonged oxygen therapy, you always follow them up and look at their eyes, see how the eyes are developing, see if everything is okay. And in case there's anything amiss, then we intervene. There are ways that we intervene to make sure that they get good outcome.
Okay. Now, the I'm looking at Twitter, and the net is asking, Dactaria went through that. I had a premature baby. Could it be the reason why my baby has CP? I think that's cerebral palsy. Could it be a reason?
Yeah, it's not. It could be a reason, but it's not. I want to expound on that. You see, it depends the reasons behind the delivery, the early delivery. As I said, you might find that someone went into early delivery because already the placenta had separated from the mom, and there's quite a bit of time that the baby was not getting oxygenated and enough blood from mom to baby, and that led to damage basically to the brain. Or you might find this baby was very small, and after delivery the baby was not breathing. They had to give oxygen that resuscitate, and during that time the baby was not getting enough oxygen to the brain, and that could have injured the brain. And babies who are very small, like less than 1,000 grams, you might find that a good portion of them will have some small bleeds in the brain, and the extent of that bleeding can actually injure the brain tissue and lead to cerebral palsy later. So not all premature babies will have cerebral palsy, but those who are extremely low birth weight have probably about a 20% chance of impairment. The extent of that impairment really depends on the kind of injury that they sustained at delivery.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope Annette has gotten her answer. Thank you so much for that. Keep sending your questions on our Twitter handle at KTN Life _ Style, on Instagram KTN Life _ Style as well, on Facebook KTN Life and Style. SMSs 22840. Let us know if you have any question for Dr. Lango. Today we're talking about premature babies. And Dr. Lango, now what can I do as a mother who's expectant to ensure that I maybe just control the risk of getting a premature baby?
If you do see your obstetrician, I know you guys call them gynecologists.
Yes.
If you go for your regular visits, because they do check, and they check how the baby is growing. They do measurements. They're trying to see if everything is in order. Then, in case there's any problem, you'll be alerted. And more importantly, it's just your general health. Eat well. Do what the obstetrician tells you. Check your pressure, make sure everything is okay, your sugars. They do routine screening every time that you go for the checkups. But that said, the most important thing is to make sure, in case you do have to have an early delivery, then you go to a facility that can take care of the small baby.
Okay.
You know, sometimes cost is an issue, and many people will want to deliver in a cheaper facility, and then baby is transferred to the better facility which has the equipment. But that transfer it's surely very risky. If you're born in a facility that cannot support the baby, the injury that the baby sustains during those few minutes, that 1 hour or that 1 day, and then the physical transfer itself of a very small baby in an ambulance which is not equipped to ventilate to the good facility, we lose so much.
Yeah.
And that injury is actually reversible. So if you're going to have a small baby and you can afford it, just go to a facility that can take care of that baby.
That's very, very
It's
important.
best to transfer in utero when the baby is still in mom's womb.
So you could have a good time. You've had a good run with the pregnancy, but there could be a problem probably.
Yeah, which is totally unexpected
and beyond you as a mother.
Anyone's control.
Okay, I'm still looking on Instagram, and where are you? Where did you go? Ah, there you are. This is Clariette, and she's saying that could heart problems emerge as a result of having a premature baby?
That's being a bit dramatic.
Is it? Mothers are dramatic.
Yeah, you know,
especially
if
first-time moms.
if you say heart problems, you know, everyone just thinks, you know, the whole thing. But when you're in the womb, you're not using your lungs to breathe. So as the heart contracts, blood is pumped towards the lungs, but then God has created a shunt, a connection, which now bypasses and goes now to the placenta for oxygenation and then the rest of the body. So you're getting your stuff from the placenta. So that connection, once you're born and you take your first breath, air goes into the lungs, the pressures balance out, and then that space closes up. Okay? So it's called ductus arteriosus. So babies who are born prematurely, we tend to see, they tend to have persistence of that ductus longer and more commonly than term babies. So it's a common thing that we see preterm babies. If the baby is not having breathing problems, or the ductus is not causing an overload in the heart, then we give it time and we see how it's going to close. About 60% will actually close on their own. But now the ones that persist later, or the ones that are causing problems with the baby in terms of breathing, even when the baby is still in the neonatal ICU, we can close them surgically. But many of them will not cause problems. Yeah. So it's not a very, it's not the classical heart disease that people know of. It is a heart problem, a heart condition, rather, not a heart condition, but it's very, very manageable. In fact, in terms of repair and everything, it's, I would say, the easiest to repair.
See the way you're saying it calmly. For a mom that would not understand it, that would be like, it's a heart, it's a heart. I see Annette Kita saying, will my premature infant grow and develop normally? No, this, I think, Annette Kita just had a baby prematurely. And
I know that's a concern, and that's something that we always want to address. You know, as neonatologists, that is the ultimate, what do you call it, like benchmark to your work. So when the baby is going to school and becoming number one, then you say, now that was a good outcome. Surviving on its own is no longer an issue, but surviving without, complications is where now what makes us happy. Now that's said and done, as I said, there are those three categories, okay? And we have numbers and percentages in terms of risk for complications later. The big ones, nowadays you don't see much complications. Your baby's born 1.5, 1.4 in a good facility, there's no bleeding in the brain, there's no too much ventilation, or they do very well. The ones that might cause a challenge in terms of development are those that are born less than 28 weeks, less than 1,000 grams. They had a prolonged period in the neonatal unit because they had to be on the ventilator, the breathing machines for so long. They complicated in terms of when they're in the neonatal unit, they had infections, okay? Or maybe they had what you call chronic lung disease, the problems of breathing, or they had the PDA, which I've just talked about, and this made the baby get into the machine and stay in neonatal unit for a longer time. So because the balance in terms of oxygenation and blood flow to the brain can cause subtle injuries. And as I said, the brain is still developing. It has not completely developed. You see, you're born 3, maybe 4 months earlier, and the brain hasn't developed fully. Between that time and the time you're supposed to have been born, there were brain cells which were migrating and making connections all over, getting to know each other and, and learning each other, so that next time they're called into action, like, I know Mukali, she's the one who sells this. So they can easily go there and get the information. That's how the brain works. So you're born before these connections are made. And along the way, the road towards Mukali's house was broken because of maybe there's no blood there. So there's a bit of disjoint, there's a problem in the communication of the brain cells. So what we see is that you might have some subtle, I wouldn't want to call them impairments, but you might have some subtle problems, let's say like in complex arithmetics, just because of the connections which didn't form. Like the way you do mental mathematics, your brain works like a matrix. And turns like this and everything fits into place. So you may have insignificant learning disabilities, okay, especially in mathematics and things like that. But that's said and done, if there are no complications at delivery, during your neonatal period, throughout, till discharge, and you've been following up with your neonatologist, you've been taking your supplements, I don't think you need to worry about that. The issues and the injuries which led to delay or features of cerebral palsy are because of actually injury to the brain cells.
Now, when a baby is born, it's very important, and we learned this in primary, that the baby needs to have the very first breast milk, which is called colostrum, which is very, very important for the baby. Now, look at a baby who's been born prematurely. They probably don't even, they've not formed the digestive system is not even working. How do they go about that?
You might find that even mom is not ready. Mom has not even gotten the milk itself. She's so stressed. She's in ICU. She had hypertension. We had to rush her to theater because she had convulsed when the baby has come out. And we have ways of doing that. Initially, we start by giving intravenous foods, so glucose. We give proteins.
Through injections.
Like through the vein. As we wait for mom to prepare. And once mom comes, we start with very small feeds, like maybe just 1 ml every 3 hours. Test the tummy, get the colostrum in there, let it colonize, get the good bacteria to work and protect the lining of the intestine, because we've seen that actually really helps in the ability of the baby to later be able to get to take mom's milk and retain, and also in terms of developing her own or his own immunity and reducing the risk for allergy-related complications, which I tell you, like asthma, allergy-related complications, which you see a lot in premature babies. Now, the challenge that we have is that many mothers who really, really require the breast milk do not have enough in the initial phases, especially those who delivered at 28 weeks, 26 weeks.
Yeah.
If you look at centers abroad, they do have what we call donated breast milk. I know in Africa it's still
like,
a challenge.
What is that? What are you
someone
talking
hears
about?
about that, they just wins. Oh God, what is that? It's witchcraft. No, but it is something that we are working on as a neonatal community here in Kenya, in Nairobi. Because if you look at breast milk as a medicine, as a drug, then you'll think of it differently. Because it's a live, or I think like it's organism-rich entity which will go into the tummy, protect the lining, and help this baby even in terms of brain development later.
Okay. So
in developed societies, there is what you call donated breast milk. There are breast milk banks, and they specifically support the level 3 neonatal units, where they have these very tiny babies who need the milk and the moms do not have, and time is actually critical. You need to start it from day one, and day one there's no milk. So if you give that small bit to that tummy, it catches on. It's like it protects the tummy and they grow.
Okay.
When time comes, we'll come back here and tell you now we're good to go.
All right. Now I'm trying to think about you trying to look for that vein to feed the baby. Is it even visible? If it's very difficult, even you go to the doctor and be doing this the whole time.
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. God has a plan, eh?
Yes.
I keep telling people this every time. Most of our procedures, we find it's what you can call a blind procedures. But you have anatomical markings. At this point, there's this kind of vein, and you've done it a million times. So if I got this depth at this corner at this rate, I'll hit it, and God makes you get it, because this baby depends on that.
It's true.
So we always get it, and that's really amazing. I'm always amazed as to how we're able to get the tiniest of lines.
Very tiny and something fragile.
Yeah,
even holding them would be a problem.
Yeah.
We need to bring this conversation to an end. You talked about the baby, probably an encouragement to the mothers out there who have it's their first time to get a baby, or if not even the first time, but probably the first time to get a premature baby, in terms of even handling the baby, not panicking 24/7 or camping outside a hospital.
They're actually human beings, eh? They're not as fragile as you think. And what people should know now is that we've come a long way as neonatologists. The field started, you'll be surprised, in the 60s, quite recent, but we've really, really grown, and we've really developed in terms of knowledge and technology to support the smallest of the babies. So we can do most of the things that can be done any other place in the world. So in terms of care, you can get the best care here in Kenya. In terms of follow-up, of course, it's always nice to check with the pediatrician. If there's no neonatologist where you are, you can always check with the pediatricians, and because the pediatricians can always get in touch with us in case they need advice even over the phone. But most importantly, go for your clinics, take your supplements, be in touch, call, ask, research, read on the net, and you'll be good.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, in the spirit of probably someone has tuned in today, they've never caught you on the show, Dr. Lango, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm at Nairobi Hospital. I practice at Nairobi Hospital, Doctor's Plaza, suite number 307.
All right.
You can drop me a line. I'll get back to you.
You
for
will.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
So thank you so much, Dr. Lango.
Yeah, pleasure. Always a pleasure.
All right. This has been Living Up. We've been talking about premature babies, the care, the causes, and how to go about, taking care of yourself as a mother before getting that baby, the checkups with your gyna, and making sure that you're eating right and all of that. Remember to keep the conversation going on KTN Life and Style on Facebook, KTN Life _style on Twitter and Instagram. The hashtag is KTN Life and Style, hashtag Health and Wellness Monday. We'll be right back after this short break with Brian Suma on Beyond the Sports.
Twende niwaonyeshe ng'ombe. Alafu Mursik sasa mtachukua Nairobi.